You're listening to Mark of the Maker. And this is episode 7. Hi, everybody. You're listening to Mark of the Maker, and I'm Mark Steiner. And we're coming to you with an episode. I don't think we told everybody what this episode was going to be, but this will be sort of a fun conversation. Oh, look at that. We kicked it off with the train.
Choo choo.
It doesn't get any more fun than that. So this is just kind of a fun episode. Oh, see, I'm leaving space for that. A fun episode with some conversation with the guys. So, Tom, you're here, obviously.
Yep. Me and the train.
And you and the train. Yeehaw. And Michael, you're here as well?
I'm here and ready to podcast.
Oh, fantastic. And Sean?
Rock and roll.
Excellent. Okay, Birch, you want to explain exactly what we're doing? Yeah, hopefully it's fun because I said it would be fun, but why don't you explain what we're going to do tonight?
Well, we are going to do, we decided to do 5 knives, basically sort of a 5 knives we think you should know about. And it may be a personal knife, a knife that's, important to us, could be important to history, just 5 knives that we each picked and we didn't tell each other. We shot them to Mark to make sure we weren't overlapping, but we want to be as surprised as you guys to hear each other say our 5 knives.
Very nice. Okay, so just a shoot the shit conversation about 5 knives you think are cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and they better be.
They better be. Okay, so and you know that birches are going to be wildly esoteric, right?
This was harder than I thought it was going to be because we left it wide open. So it was like, we don't know what the other guys are going to get. I don't know how it's going to stack up. So it was a little harder than I thought, it was going to be.
It was really hard. Because it was so wide open, Well, then I choose what's important to you or history or.
But then I didn't want to get into knives that we might talk about later. I was like, well, don't pick that because that might be a knife we want to talk about later. So it was just kind of scary. So we'll see how it goes.
In case it's not painfully obvious by this point, sometimes Michael overthinks things a little bit.
All the time.
Nah.
Okay.
I think we all do a little.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so I think Tom's going to start us out.
Okay. So first one on my list is a Bob Dozier drop point hunter. It's in Knives and Knife Makers, so everybody should have a copy of that at this point.
Assigned reading. Reference your assigned reading material.
Right. If you don't, it's too late.
And these aren't in any order. We just, we're randomly kind of saying these. So
this was just the top on my list, but it was, if you look in Knives and Knife Makers, it's on page 50. And I think it might be pretty cool if each one of us put a photo of the 5 knives, in the group after the podcast goes live.
Absolutely.
So people could see it. But it's on page 50. It's also in the color section. It's a knife with Osage orange handle. And to me, the lines just spoke to me. And interesting, I talked to Bob afterwards because the Osage orange has a very distinct look. And he was like, yeah, when I worked for him, I asked him about it. And he was like, yeah, we got that down in the bayou at a certain place where it's really wet and they grow and the grain's open. And he told me all about that knife. And he actually let me use the pattern. I've got a blade in the shop that actually a few of them that I never finished. And might have to do that. But yeah, that's one of my favorite knives.
Tom, I think you talked about that one during your intro episode or something, right?
Yeah. That knife was just lit the fire for me. I saw it and it's crazy because if you have the book, there's so many cool knives in that book, but this one is very simple and you can just look at it and it's a knife. You know how to use it. You don't have to think about it. To me, if you distill down a knife, that's it.
Nice.
Now you say Osage, not Osage.
Well, yeah. I don't know. That's what I've always said.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Bodark.
Yeah, I say Bodark too.
Wood of the bow.
Yeah, I never heard Osage, but I don't know if I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know Snow used to have to cut it for a fence post, the corner post, and it would kill your chainsaw.
Yeah. Work it while it's green.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the tree with the big green like pod seeds that fall off of it? They look kind of like brains.
Hedge apples.
Yep.
Hedge apples or horse apples.
Yeah, we got those all over the place here.
Excellent handle material, and makes some of the strongest and best bows, if you're talking like a self bow, out there.
I tried to make a couple.
That's what it means. Bodark is wood of the bow.
So, Tom, what makes it a good handle material?
What makes it a good handle material?
Yeah, you'd say it's great handle material. Why? Why is it a good handle material?
It's really hard and dense, and it's really a cool handle material. I've actually only used it once on a knife, and when you work it, it's like a bright yellow color. I mean, it's just yellow. And as it ages, the UV, it darkens and gets this beautiful, like, dark orange luster, and as it darkens, but
nice,
pretty stable and just a beautiful material.
It's tough as shit. I mean, you try to nail into it. It's a horrible. You can actually make money cutting it down and selling the post. I mean, you can make decent money doing that stuff if you had around. If you were wanting to do that sort of torturous work.
That's really sad making posts out of it, though. I know that's what they use a lot of it for, but if you have it, cut it into bow staves, you'll get like 10 times the money.
Interesting.
Sean, you're next. What do you got?
My first pick is the classic Stockman pattern slip joint. It's one of the knives that really got me going. I think it's a classic pattern. I think it has a classic look, and it's one everybody should be familiar with.
I wondered who picked the Stockman, because that was one that had overlap that I had to change.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm safe on this one. And I wondered about the others, but yeah, that was the one I had to change.
Okay, so
Good choice.
or old timer? What are you thinking?
Now, what are old timer? Case or old timer?
Yeah.
Man, just for nostalgia's sake, it was always cases with me, so I would have to say case.
Yeah, for me, it was always like the old timer. That's what my grandfather had and stuff, so it's like kind of what you grew up around. Excellent choice.
Thank you.
I actually put Buck down. If you ask, Mark can tell you, I put Buck Stockman.
I almost picked a Dozier, but I wondered if you might, so I didn't.
I think I'm familiar with the Stockman. It's a 3-blade, right?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. So maybe, Sean, can you talk a little bit about this for people that aren't familiar with the pattern, like what a Stockman is, and it's got blades for specific things, usually like the original design of it anyway, right?
Yeah. Generally, your Stockman has 3 blades. You've got a clip point main blade, a spay blade, and a sheep's foot blade. And the lines of the knife are really nice. The handle itself has a little bit of an S curve to it. Generally, the clip point main blade is pretty sleek. And it's just a really nice knife. It's one of the knives that really, I guess, drew my eye to line and flow on a knife because of the curve to the handle.
Yeah.
Nice.
Makes a great, kid's knife. I grew up with them. I'm sure you did too, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. My first real pocket knife was a Stockman.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a good one, too, because it'll be interesting to people because with this crazy resurgence in slip joints that we've seen, right? I mean, the last few years, custom slip joints anyway, and even production slip joints have really taken off like crazy in popularity.
Oh, yeah, very much. And, of course, those older ones, they were nice and light. You didn't have that kind of hard snap to worry about as a kid.
Yep.
Okay, so I think I'm next in the list here, and I'm going to do exactly what Birch didn't want to do, which is pick something obvious, and that is the Emerson CQC6.
I knew you'd pick that.
Yeah. Super, super iconic design, boat tail handle, zero grind blade. My favorite are the old thin liner CQC6s. I'm not a huge fan of the wave. Sorry, Ernie. So I like the waveless CQC6 stuff, but that starts to get old and they've gotten awfully expensive anymore. But just a very, very cool knife. Lots of neat history around it and where it came from. I think it's a wish list collector knife for many, 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 many people. And I was very fortunate a few years ago to have a USN pal sell me a very old one, a threaded bolster CQC6. And that was sort of, Birch and I have talked about this on the watch collecting thing. Like there's a couple watches for us for sure that are like, wow, if I had one of those, maybe I'd just be done with watch stuff.
It's almost a bucket list sort of thing where you got to have one in your collection, to feel like have a well-rounded collection to have one of those.
It certainly felt that way to me. When I got that one, it was like, yep, that's the one.
Now, are you on the search for another one, or now that you have the one, are you just pretty much like, okay, I'll look for other types of Emersons or, other stuff?
Yeah, so this is probably true with lots of other collecting things, but there are a couple Emerson collection, I don't know, goals or whatever that different people sort of go after. One is called a Viper Straight. So Ernie makes these MV series knives, MV1, MV2, MV3, MV4, MV5. And so people will put together a whole string of those, right? Like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set.
Makes sense.
What I really would like to do is what I've referred to as a CQC straight. So that would be a CQC 5, which is the baby version of the 6, then a 6, then a CQC 7, and then the CQC 8, which is the banana, the long swoopy blade. And the hard one to get for me has been a CQC 9, which is the eagle. That's the super hawksbill style with the spider hole.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'd still like to find a CQC 9. I was offered one that I probably should have bought, but what I'd really like is a G10 handled CQC 9, because that seems like the super legit version to me. So I'm still on the hunt for a 9.
Well, that's the quintessential CQC 9.
Right.
Yeah, and I just Googled that. That's the upswept civilian type blade. Or not upswept, more of is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the hawk bill inward curve blade.
It's got like the hawk's bill.
It's got a real severe hawk's bill, yeah.
Like a pruning knife.
That's awesome.
When it's open, it sort of comes up out of the handle and then hooks down. So
for pruning appendages?
Actually, it was for pruning marijuana, I believe. I think it was designed for drug erad.
I think you're right.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'd like to find a G10-9. Friend Mr. John Hall offered me a bolstered one that I should have bought, but I didn't because I really wanted a G10 version.
That's pretty cool. So you haven't been able to talk him into like a Westinghouse handled one? Nothing like that? Not going to happen?
Talk Ernie into making me a Westinghouse one?
Yeah, that'd be a lot cooler if you did.
It would be pretty cool, yeah, but no. I think I got to go old to get what I'm looking for, so we'll see. It'll be expensive. I can find it, but that's how it goes.
That's probably part of the fun part, though, is just keeping an eye out and seeing if something pops up like that.
Oh, the thrill of the hunt, always.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I have to say, like I mentioned during my intro episode, most of those came to me, not all, but at least a few of them came to me from friends who knew I was looking for one and either happened to have one or came across one or were thinning down their collection and were kind enough to send one my way. So those are all, I have waveless versions of all of those, and
very cool.
And the 9 is sort of the last one I got to find. So
I've got a question for you, Mark, as an Emerson collector. What about the Rhino? What does that do anything for you?
It does. It's like the 9, it's a very super purposeful knife. I've never been crazy after a Rhino. There aren't a heck of a lot of them out there. There's only a few.
Right.
Double edged, serrated on top, dispatching of enemies kind of knives. So it would be cool, but I don't know. It's never been one that I really chased very hard. I've seen a few of them in person. They're crazy looking.
Does the Rhino have like some crazy story on that?
Yeah,
Sean?
It's made for sentry elimination. It's made for cutting throats.
Yeah.
Figured you were going to say something like lining up coke or something like that. Something crazy.
It ain't all about dope, man.
Allegedly, Birch.
Well, I didn't know that other one was for that. So basically, that is sort of like like you're saying the leaf trimming. That's sort of a grafting knife idea.
Yes.
Tactical horticulture knife.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
The one I actually have a few of them are the little CQC5s. Those are super cool because they're very small, easy to pocket. I have a few of the old waveless versions with thin liners, so they carry real slim. And I have a few of those. CQC5 I really, really like.
What's the suspect one? What is the?
It's a Super 6.
Okay.
There's two of them. There's the recent one is a G10 handled regular size 6, and then the old one is a great big one, the Super 6 that Sean talked about.
Okay. Yeah, I got that one, the new one. It's cool. It's a very cool knife, but definitely not the old school CQC6.
No,
Right.
Yeah, they're different for sure, but
Oh yeah,
they are cool. That's actually what I'm fiddling around with tonight thing. So we jumped to the end on that one, but that's what I got in my hand twiddling around with.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Ruined it.
All right,
All right, so next we're back to Tom.
Nah,
right?
Michael's
you're
got
just
to
gonna
go.
skip me like that, huh?
Let's not skip Birch.
Oh, sorry.
Way to go.
Yeah, my bad.
I'm bringing it.
Sorry,
I'm
Michael.
bringing it to 1999 to you guys. We are all wearing some cool jackets, some cool jeans. Then the Columbia River Knife and Tool came out with the Kit Carson M18, M16s.
Oh, yeah.
You guys remember those?
Yeah, very good choice.
Heck yeah. Good choice.
Those were, I think, important to kind of where we are now, because that was like the introduction into flipping knives. And it seemed like everybody had an M16.
Yeah, that knife seemed to be a huge mass market hit. I mean, they made so many variations on that thing.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, and they're still making variations on it. But that was like the introduction into the flipper. Now, it had a flipper tab, but it was like not what we think of as a flipper nowadays. But, it's based off a Kit Carson design, which, as we know, he and Gilbreth, did stuff. Gilbreth showed Kit Carson, supposedly Purdue showed Gilbreth the flipper stuff, and then goes back to Bob Haynes, the first kind of flipper, as is Boguszewski with his Viper, I think it was called, or something like that. Or he had another one that was kind of a flipper. But that was kind of the start of like this whole flipper revolution. That was the first one I ever touched, and it was like, huh, I didn't know that, you could flip it out like that.
Yeah, they worked remarkably well.
It had the locks. I think it was called a locks feature on it. Where you can pop it open.
That came out later, didn't it? Or was that on the initial ones?
I don't know if it's on the initial ones. I know
It came out later.
Okay, thanks. Because I got it on the one, my M18, and I've still got that, and I'll post a photo up on the group after this goes live.
I've got an M18 too.
Sweet. Yeah, it's just a cool knife, and I had to add it into here.
So, does your M18 have what color inserts on the handles?
It's got the black.
Yeah.
You got the maroon?
I got blue.
Ooh.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
Fancy man.
Heck yeah. Great knives.
The other day I was digging around in the cupboard where we have a overhead cabinet thing in the kitchen. That's like where when I come home from work, I drop my keys, my wallet and stuff in this little spot in the cabinet. And inevitably what collects there are like, someone will send me a production knife or I'll get one somewhere. Or I don't know. Somehow they accumulate. And so there's a bunch of small, relatively inexpensive production knife stuff kind of like in a pile in this cabinet in the kitchen. And there's like a mini one of those in there. I don't know what they call the small version, but it's like a little teeny version of that knife. Like another version of like the M16, or did it have just another designation? Or, that's what I don't know. It's got the same little funky flipper tab on it and the same style handle. It's just almost like a mini or a micro version of it. So somehow, some way, we've all
got like
we've all had or have one.
20 different SKUs in the catalog right now. It's really one of Kit's best designs, and CRKT. It's done very well for them.
Yeah, I don't want to, it had to help put them on the map. It really had to, because it seemed like there was no one that didn't have one of those.
Yep. That and Ed Halligan's Kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kiss. I got a couple of those too, somewhere around here.
Awesome.
Back to you, Tom. What do you got for number 2?
All right. So my number 2 choice is going to be a Cyrils Bowie. I really wanted to choose a Bowie knife, and I figured this one is probably, in my mind, this is going to be the most authentic. If you study about it, the original Bowie knife was not designed by James Bowie. He just used it at the sandbar fight and kind of brought it to fame. He probably used it more than that, but it was more like a butcher knife with a guard, basically, is how it was described, and a sharp swedge. And Resin, his older brother, was actually the one that designed it. And, the sandbar fight happened, 1828 or something like that. And in the 1830s, Resin went to a famous knife maker, Cyrils, and asked him to make some because the Bowie knife had gained this fame, and he had him make some, and he would hand them out as gifts. So in my mind, that's probably going to be about as authentic as you can get when it comes to a Bowie knife.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It does have a very butchery type of look to it. And that's what sort of some of the Moran and some of the Skagel stuff remind me a bit of.
Yeah, it was just a thick, heavy butcher knife. And then, of course, when it got, in New Orleans, you had this whole knife culture already there, and the Bowie knife kind of went into that. And that's where, the Bowie knife, I think, became legend and developed the fighting skills with it. And I don't know if you're familiar with James Keating, but his Comtech Cressada, he has a 5-volume set on the Bowie, and he goes into the secrets of the back cut and some of the stuff. And if you study some of this stuff, all of a sudden the Bowie knife starts making a lot of sense. And, the Bowie, it's a very romantic design. It's been used in movies like The Iron Mistress, and, as a kid, we all wanted one. And, so I just thought that a Bowie knife had to be on my list, and this one to me is the most authentic.
Now, you made some of those, Keating designs, didn't you?
Yeah.
I swear you made some.
Yeah. So I work, when I worked for Bob Dozier, we made the Cressada. And it was kind of crazy because it was Keating's design, but Bob would make it shorter, longer. I don't think he ever made it longer, but he, whatever piece of steel he had, if it was an inch or two short, he'd make it a couple inches shorter. So we made a bunch of them. But when I quit and went out on my own, James contacted me because Bob quit making them for him because Bob was so busy. And James contacted me, and we developed a relationship. And for a couple years, I made them. I still have probably 30 or 40 aluminum trainers in the shop with handles on them that I need to do something with. But basically, I actually, if you remember the early Cressada, it had a very straight handle, and it was very blade heavy. It felt like it was going to fly out of your hand. And so I asked James if I could design the handle. And if you look at the Cressadas that he's doing now, I designed the handle that's on all of them now. It's a bird's head pommel. I was just cleaning the office, and I came across the original drawings I had done, and had okayed that with James. And then, he also, he never made a Bowie. It was also the dagger. And I was like, dude, if you're making the Bowie videos, why don't we make a Bowie bladed Cressada? So if you see any Bowie Cressadas, not only did I design the handle, I designed the blade. So
very cool.
Kind of crazy.
You'll have to post a photo up once this goes live, because that's a very unique design. It's pretty funky.
Oh, it's a wicked cool knife.
Yeah, they're really neat. And back, I don't do very many big knives anymore. I just made a fighter this last week, and it was really fun. And I was like, man, I need to start making some bigger fighters because, I used to do a lot of them, and I you know how it is. You kind of get in a rut and you make what you make. And I've a big love for Bowie knives and fighting knives, but here lately I haven't made any, and I think I'm going to start making a few more.
This podcast has not been helpful with that sort of stuff. It just makes me want to start buying or making big ass knives again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay though. Embrace it.
Okay.
Sean, what do you got for number 2?
Number 2, and this one's probably unique to me. You guys probably have never heard of it. Is the United Cutlery Scorpion. And this was an important knife to me. I got one when I was around 11, and it really kind of went between fantasy and tactical at that time. And I don't know, man, it just sparked something in my imagination. I love that little knife. It kind of a slim, almost Gerber Mark II kind of blade, and then a cast aluminum handle. And the handle was hollow. Huh?
Yeah.
Did it have a scorpion on it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to go into the handle, there was this little like 3-prong punch knife that screwed into the butt of the handle and hid out. And I thought that was the coolest shit ever. And I just really love that knife. One of my earliest little love affairs with an edged weapon.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna use my Google machine to look that up because I think I know what you're talking about. I know I heard you.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Beautiful, nice narrow blade.
Yeah, I mean,
very reminiscent of a Mark II.
It's definitely a riff on a Mark II, down to the partial serrations below the waist, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Really?
I did not Oh, yeah. Man, I spent a lot of time looking at the Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and they carried all the United Cutlery stuff.
Exactly.
Well, that's where I got it from, was Smoky Mountain, so.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, there was definitely some Uniteds bought by myself. You know, I didn't get that one. But, yeah, I remember seeing that. I didn't know it had a little fancy knife on the inside.
Yeah, it's not a knife so much as it is a little 3-prong jig or whatever. It definitely wasn't sharp, but you could poke the shit out of something with it.
A little stabby guy.
It's a scorpion tail, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Did you tie that to a rope? Flip it out there?
Come here.
And that's why Michael has one eye.
Yeah, right.
It's a good thing I didn't buy that when I was a kid.
What was the handle made out of, Sean?
Cast aluminum.
Cast aluminum. So that the little guard features and all that were all cast right into the handle.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, man, like I said, it captured my imagination.
It started something in you, and that's important.
It threw gas on a fire that was already there smoldering. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
How old were you when you got that? Just curious.
Probably 11.
Right? That's awesome.
Our parents were awesome.
Well, my parents were always pretty good at stuff like that. And I mean,
what the heck?
We bought some cool stuff at very young ages.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I walk into my kids' room and I'll be looking for something. I'll pull open a drawer and they've got like 15 or 20 of my knives. There's like a sword stuck behind their bookcase. It's
I'm
pretty
afraid
funny.
that's going to happen with Harper when she's 5.
With Harper.
She scares me so much.
How long is that knife, Sean? Do you have any recollection how big it is?
it is not a large knife. I am guessing the blade is it's no more than 4 inches, and it was a narrow blade.
That was going to be my guess, is 4 inches.
I'm guessing about 4 inches and maybe 3/4 inch wide on the blade.
I like how eclectic our choices are.
4.5 inches. I Googled it, so sorry.
It's actually part of like a little series they did. There was the Scorpion, the Black Widow, and then one other. And the Black Widow and the other knife were basically takes on the Gerber Guardian.
Yeah, there's a lot of variations on the Gerber daggers. And who here?
Oh, yeah.
Who here wanted the United Cutlery Gilhibben double blade with the wire wrap? Who lusted after that knife?
Oh yeah, there was a movie where the dude sacrificed himself with it, right?
Dude, well,
do you remember
what movie
that?
was that? Because I saw that. It starts out with the kid doing the suicide sacrifice with the Gilhibben knife.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck?
What was that? The movie Mr. Frost? Was that Mr. Frost with Jeff Goldblum?
We're going to need some Google machine on this one.
I don't know, man.
I can't remember what it was, but I remember that movie.
That was a disturbing movie for me.
That was such a cool. I mean, I loved the look of that knife. I couldn't afford it when I was real young, and I obviously went with the First Blood for the first United Cutlery as a kid type of knife. But man, I wanted that double dagger with like a big middle cutout.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Well, it came out around the same time the Highlander Bowie did, and the Highlander Bowie almost made it on this list.
Oh yeah,
It's called the Double Shadow.
I bet it was like that.
Gilhibben Double Shadow.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah, they both had that wire wrapped handle. That Highlander one came real close to being bought by me as a kid too.
On several occasions by me, man. I still like that knife and would not mind having one. They also did a blacked out version that was really nice.
I love the wire wrapped handles. It reminds me of Tom Maringer's work so much.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, we had an Army surplus store that had one of the Highlander one. Man, it's so close to coming home with me a couple times. But I was very young and did not have money.
The whole money thing when you're young sucks.
Now I'll have all the United cutleries I want.
You're going to have all of them.
Oh, man.
Well, United played a huge part in my development in what I like as knives. I mean, they were just there.
Oh, me too.
And they were putting out designs that appealed to an 11 or 12-year-old boy.
And what's odd is, when we got to like the forum stage of our stuff, you didn't talk about that stuff.
Mm-mm.
You didn't say how you collected United Cutlery. That was...
Well, no, it's your dirty little secret.
'Cause that's not
your
cool,
little skeleton
man.
in the closet.
We're finding out that
Your United Cutlery and Cold Steel and...
Yeah, we even got a buddy of ours, like a birthday present with a big-ass buoy of theirs. Like a D-guard buoy that we bought for... We're like, here you go. It was like an actual birthday present for a buddy when we were in like junior high. It's crazy.
I always wanted the Rambo 3 knife for whatever reason. That was a big knife.
Yeah, I think that...
Yes, it was.
And they did a good job on it.
Yes, they did.
Oh, man. What about you, Mark? Any United Cutleries?
No.
No. That was after your time. Before your time, I guess.
This is all distasteful to him.
Yeah.
What's your number 2 knife, Mark?
But no, I do like that that Scorpion that Sean was talking about. That's cool.
Man, it's a kitschy little knife. It is what it is, but it made a big difference to me. And that's why it's on my list.
Exactly.
Very cool.
That's an example, one of those things like we've talked about before where we talk about it on the show and then you're prowling eBay and whatever trying to find something
I bet you they're out there. They probably imported tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my number 2 is the ultra classic Bob Turgel ATCF.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you can't go wrong with that.
No.
I'm a longtime fan of Bob's work, and I think it's kind of the definition of tactical folder, right? I mean, that's Bob's first tactical folding knife, huge history behind it, been making it for many, many, many years. I think they're fantastic. And Bob has a great collection of stories from his life. He'd be a great person to have on at some point down the road if we can find some time to talk to him too. But yeah,
it's
Turgel ATCF.
Iconic. I mean, it's just an iconic blade that, it was in the tactical knife book. It's just when you think of tactical, that's kind of the first thing that pops in your head. That's look.
Dude, he literally wrote the book on the tactical folder.
Yeah.
I mean, and he shows that knife in that book a lot.
Which is a great book, by the way. If you're starting to make knives, folding knives, it is an awesome book.
And also sadly out of print and super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's actually been...
worth every penny.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, so the preface of Bob's book, very early in the preface, it says the following chapters will detail the construction of my advanced technology combat folder. So yeah, like you said, the book that probably you guys and certainly lots of other knife makers use as a key reference material for lock geometry and all kinds of stuff is all based around that knife. So yeah, it's like the 6, it's kind of an obvious choice for me personally. But for good reason, I think.
Very much. That's a good choice.
Totally agree.
And I'm glad somebody...
And he's got it. I mean...
Go ahead. No,
go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to say I'm glad somebody picked it. I was hoping somebody would pick it.
Oh, yeah. It's a genre-defining knife.
Yeah.
It's like that and the Almar one. It's kind of like I hope somebody picks it.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I've owned a whole bunch of them over the last several years, and everything from super plain, liner lock, frame lock, very standard traditional ATCFs, all the way to super, super fancy, crazy looking ones. So they're like you say, iconic shape. I guess we're repeating ourselves here, or certainly I am, but it works with everything. It can be super dressy. It can be very plain, but in the core of it is a great design that's comfortable, fits the hand, works hard. Just fantastic knives.
Nice.
Okay, Mr. Birch, what's your number 2?
I'm trying to figure out what I want to go with next. I'm going with the Lum double-bladed folder. We're kind of in this resurgence of a lot of, slip joint pocket knives that are sometimes slip joints, sometimes they're a frame lock. You know what I'm talking about? There's a lot of trappers or stuff like that. And, and Lum did that very cool double-bladed liner lock with the cutouts on it. It was basically to look like a slip joint, but it was a liner lock. One blade came out each side. And the cool thing about it was that middle part was the lock for both sides. So you basically have a liner in the middle that's kind of cut almost, off, and it's bent both ways. So you get one open, it pops it open and locks that side. Close it, do it the other way.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't know. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's just a very cool, it's a modern interpretation of a slip joint, but as a liner lock. And we're seeing that a lot more nowadays. So I thought it was kind of very appropriate to bring it up.
I'd honestly never seen that. I just Googled it, and it's
super
beautiful.
Super cool. Love that piece. Google that up if you haven't seen one before. And of course, Lum stuff is just, awesome stuff. But that one right there, it's one of those that's stuck in my head for a long time.
Very, very clean.
Mm-hmm.
On John Newkman's eBoss Haas site, he's got a very nice picture. He always takes great pictures, but he's got a really nice picture of the mechanism, the way the lock is set up. So it looks like the lock, it's thin, right? Liner lock kind of thickness, but it's must be anchored in the center and then cut from both ends and then bent like an S.
Yep, pretty much.
Nice.
What a beautiful knife.
Yeah. No,
so it must be that it's sandwiched in there.
Yeah, kind of like you would do like
piece that makes the lock.
Yeah, the piece like you have a separate piece, spacer kind of piece in like a double-bladed slip joint, except this one sticks up and works as a lock.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level of complication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yet still has that very, defining simplicity, but not quite. It's not a simple blade, but it has that simple look, that clean look to it, that a lot of his folders had that just made them so great.
I like the pseudo nail nick opener on it. That's a really nice nod to tradition.
Yeah, that's what I like, about it. It is what we're seeing a lot of nowadays. A lot of kind of slip joints, but with modern takes on it. And that was kind of a very well done version of it back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super clean. And that
John's actually he's got a video on his site too that's really cool that sort of walks you through it.
I was just going to say, he's got beautiful pictures of it, open, closed, spine shots, lock, looking down on the lock, all that stuff. Wow.
Is it for sale or does he have
That's
one
sold
from past? Okay.
Yeah, it's already been sold.
Shit was about to get real expensive.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Good choice.
Huh. Yeah, it looks like it is sandwiched in there. The lock is a layer. It's all stacked up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So handles on both sides, backspacer basically, and then the liner sandwiched in the center. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very much. It's just a great looking piece.
Kit Carson also did one similar to that.
The cross lock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from both sides. They did it for Buck. Different than this. This is much, much more classy and cleaner, in my opinion.
Yeah, nowhere near as bulky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
So have you guys not seen this piece before? Because that would be pretty awesome.
No, I'd never seen that piece before.
I had not.
You know, I saw it somewhere, Michael. I think someone was asking about, I'm trying to remember if it was in that shop talk part of USN, or maybe it was in the custom knives section where people show off custom stuff. But I think Tony showed a picture of one of these.
Oh, I bet.
Because I have seen it. I saw it somewhere in a thread on USN because I know Tony had a very deep lump collection. So I don't know if it was one of his or something else.
I've often thought about revisiting, but I don't know if that's a proprietary thing, and I definitely don't want to do something that's, somebody's thing.
No, I think you'd be totally fine doing that. Put your spin on it. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Birch just went in the ditch.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Now the Blade Show knives aren't going to get done.
Yeah.
And it's only March.
New distraction just came around.
Hey, if we're not having fun, why are we doing this,
That's true.
I mean, other than to pay the bills.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sometimes my fun gets in the way of bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Hey, why don't you just try saying that next time the electric bill is due, Michael? Just say that to Abby.
Yeah. You mean I don't get...
Hey, you know what, honey? If I'm not having fun, why am I doing this?
Are you saying these sketches aren't worth money? Because I've been sketching a lot.
You're like Jack with a couple of beans in your hand that you just traded for the cow.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tom, what do you got for, what are we on, number 3?
Yeah, number 3 for me is something that probably everybody had or knew of. Nothing too crazy, but growing up, this was something that I wanted. I'd go to Walmart and look at the counter and drool, and me and my brother saved up, and this was the first knife that I actually put down my hard-earned cash on, and it's a Schrade Sharpfinger.
Classic.
Very, very iconic knife. If you don't know what it looks like, I'm sorry, you probably didn't have a fun childhood.
Yeah. I'm sorry your life was so worthless.
That was his version of Sean. Yourself.
No,
exactly. I was bracing for it. I'm like, it's coming, man.
Never heard of a Sharpfinger.
But really, I mean, that was an iconic knife, right?
Yes,
I mean,
very.
So if you go to a deer camp in the South, you're still gonna see them. And they were a great knife. The steel was good on them. They were a little thick. I ground mine on a carborundum stone. I basically did a flat grind on it when I was probably 13 or 14. I just ground it almost down to a zero edge and put a secondary on it. And that thing was great. I used that for so long, and then it's got burgundy linen micarta on it now somewhere in a Kydex sheath. But yeah, I carried that for a long time. Really a fun knife, when you look back, In fact, somehow I think I ended up with my brother's knife. I think it's in the garage. But Schrade Sharpfinger.
Yeah, man, it's cool that you mentioned that.
It's one of those
that's one of the knives I grew up around. One of the knives Dad had in his collection was a Sharpfinger, and that's one of the ones I always was drawn to. I always loved handling that knife.
Yeah, it just feels great with the dropped edge and lots of tip and belly. You can do everything with it.
Just interesting lines on it. It has a very interesting flow to it.
Yep.
It was a deer hunting, deer cleaning knife. I mean, it was purpose driven, and you can go in like any hardware store and there'd be that display where they had the shape that set in. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I'm sure there's a name for it. Where they formed it around the knife. You'd have your sod buster stuck in
like
there,
a wet form sheath.
All your
like in the plastic or.
Yeah, and that'd be the display. You could see them all over the place.
You're talking about a felt thick pad that's got indentation that's the knives all sit in, yeah.
Yeah, well, the classic cutlery advertising displays.
Yeah, and like all the hardware stores had them, around here and stuff, and it was awesome. I'd just look at them. I'd be standing in front of them just looking at it. It'd be the same knives, but I didn't care. And that Sharpfinger was just, that was the fixed blade part of it that you're just like, oh yeah.
That was under $15 with tax and everything when I bought it. It was kind of crazy. But that was a lot of money for me because that whole you're poor when you're a kid thing.
Tell you what, if I could find one of those displays, I'd put on my wall.
Oh, yeah.
As a side note, the sharp fingers were actually very popular with outlaw biker gangs at one point in time.
Really?
Oh, really?
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's funny.
Now, what was the purpose behind that? Just because it was such a popular knife, or easily?
It was a discreet and carryable fighting fixed blade is what they used it for.
Nice.
And then it was so common and, for hunting and the rural community at the time, you could play it off as, well, this is my hunting knife.
Huh.
There you go.
That is very interesting.
And it's stabby as hell.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
So I've never actually held the sharp finger. So it looks like when you choke up on the knife, your thumb goes up on that ramp for
Yeah.
doing real fine stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Very cool.
It feels great in the hand.
I had that kind of plastic Delrin handle.
That stuff. Yeah. It's Delrin that's saw cut.
Is that what gave it that texture, that kind of feel to it? It's just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it was raw cut? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's to replicate saw cut bone.
I thought you meant that it had that because of the way it was cut. And I was like,
Yeah, I think that's how they get it.
Oh, okay.
It's probably both.
Yeah, I think it's both. Pretty cool stuff.
Like by a couple days, I'm going to have me a scorpion. I'm going to have me a sharp finger.
Sean, what do you got in the middle of your list?
In the middle of my list is the Benchmade AFCK.
Oh,
There we go.
Yeah,
great
that's a good
choice.
one.
Man, it's just there because I like that knife. It is a classic design. The blade reminds me a lot of the master blade in a Stockman with the way the clip's executed and the general sweep of the blade. I like that blade style. Handle's super ergonomic. It's just a really well-designed, really useful knife.
My all-time favorite Benchmade design ever.
Do you still have one?
Oh, dude, I could see it.
I still have one. I bought one in, man, I think it was 91, 92, somewhere in there. I carried that thing every day when I worked for Dozier.
That's very cool.
That was my carry knife for several years.
Do you still
Me
have
too.
one,
I carried
Sean?
one of the, yeah, I still have the original one I got. It was one of the smaller AFCK2s. And eventually that's the knife I ended up learning to sharpen on a grinder on. So there ain't a whole lot of blade left to that dude at this point. Its geometry is
awesome.
very compromised.
You're going to have to pass that down to your grandkids and be like their version of the old timer pocket knife.
It'd be, man, I mean, it's whittled down.
Yeah, there you go.
Mine still looks pretty good.
Now, how many of you guys had the Griptilian?
I never had one.
I've got one in the shop here somewhere.
I had a couple of those. I think I've got somewhere around here. I could send you one if you want, Sean. I feel like everyone had to have one of those at some point.
The AFCK, though, is like the all-time classic Benchmade in my mind. And I don't know about you guys. Were you plain edge or?
Oh, I'm a plain edge guy, man.
I'm a plain edge guy now.
So I usually am. I had a partially serrated one, and that thing was a cutting son of a gun. Their serrations are some of the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, they are.
So I got to go look and see if I still have mine. I have one of these too. I don't remember if it was a 2, like Sean mentioned, the smaller version. And I'm pretty sure the one I had was black blade, part serrated. But I might not still have it. Man, I might have sold that thing on USN a long time ago. I don't even know. But I had one. Same thing. I carried it for a long,
I had
time.
the original with the round hole.
Yeah, me too.
Later they
Yeah.
came out with the oval hole, and I didn't like those at all.
I think the old ones are, maybe they still are, but at one point they were sort of desirable. Like, they became a little bit, maybe collectible is not the right word, but they were sought after, the older ones.
Well, as well they should be. They were fantastic knives.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's a cool choice.
Thank you.
Excellent choice.
Okay, so keeping with my Captain Obvious choices, number 3 for me is Loveless Big Bear. I talked about that during my episode. Big old crazy Loveless sub hilt. That for me is the power. If I win the Powerball, I'm going to go buy one kind of knife. We talked in some of the earlier episodes about how certain knives and shapes, there's certain iconic knives and shapes, but like Tom with that Dozier drop point, for me, that the Loveless Big Bear is very much one of those that's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, very much sticks with you. I don't know. Like if I think about, wow, what's the biggest, baddest knife that I would ever want to own or carry? That's it for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very cool knife. It's a little excessive. It's very dramatic. Yeah, it sticks with you.
Well, it hits that classic feel. It hits that kind of outdoorsy feel. It hits that kind of survival feel. Like, hits a lot of points.
Yes, it do.
Well, and I mean, as a knife maker, you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is a knife maker's knife maker that made this.
And just the style itself. I mean, the grinds on it would be crazy to do.
Beautiful.
The double, I mean, just, it would be a pain in the ass to make. So you appreciate it on a knife making level and just how badass it is.
Hey, Mark, just FYI, I Googled that and, there's one for sale up on the web and it's $120,000, but you get overnight shipping and it's free. The shipping's free. I mean,
now is that net to them or is that like PayPal fees?
Right. Do you have to add the
now,
PayPal
if you want to
fees?
cross off that and another name, at Blade Show, there's a Kronk Big Bear pattern knife that this guy has for sale for $5,000 for the past, I think, 5 years. And I look at it every year thinking, ooh.
Is that right?
Dude, I want a Kronk so bad.
Yeah, I do too.
I think there's a number of Big Bear pattern knives at Blade Show.
It was a very popular, kind of like a lot of the Loveless, patterns. They just got, a lot of people made them. It became very popular.
Right.
Kit Carson has made them. The Kronk. Kronk made these funky, crazy stuff. He made one. All these guys, kind of made it. It was like it got used quite a bit. A very cool pattern.
I feel left out now. I haven't made one.
I've never made one.
We're all going to show up at Blade with like
made one
replicas and Big Bear Bowies. Everybody's going to be so disappointed.
Yeah, pack of wood, sharp finger, and
dude, I'm doing that. I'm gonna do that.
What, you bringing back pack of wood or the sharp finger?
Yeah, man, both.
You're gonna get a.
I may start a collection to try to get Birch to actually make a pack of wood sharp finger and bring it to Blade Show.
So I can relive my worst nightmare from that first Blade where I had a lottery and a fixed blade. Get that guy to be like, no, I'm good.
Yep. Yeah, I'm good.
That's so sad, man.
Oh, I wake up.
That like hurts me inside.
Wake up with the sweat. It's like my night terror. Reoccurring nightmare.
The stinky fear sweats.
Oh man.
I'll like you said, we should post pictures of all of these in the group, in the Facebook group over the next, once we get the episode published, we'll start flushing them out there. But I know exactly the Big Bear one the Big Bear picture I'm going to post. Dave Ellis had a bunch of crazy ones
oh yeah.
But there's a coupe photo. The first one that comes up if you Google Loveless Big Bear, red liners. This looks like must be mammoth ivory. It could be elephant ivory, but boy, they'd be big pieces. But tapered tang with the sub hilt.
Oh yeah.
With red liners. I don't know, it's just off the charts. Double nude logo, the whole deal.
I know the knife you're talking about. I've seen pictures of that.
How cool would it be to have a collection of Big Bear Bowies?
It'd be pretty cool.
Forget having one.
Yeah.
Let's put together a collection, man.
I came pretty close as a kid to buying the Cold Steel version.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, they did a nice repro.
All right, Michael, what's your, where are we at here? You on number 3?
I'm going to go with a throwback to around 1990. I've got one of these pieces, the Spectrum metal laminate pieces. I think these are pretty important because it was kind of the early version of like your Damascus version of titanium. The Bill Buckner was a bladesmith, did a lot of Damascus stuff like that from I think he started in like late 70s. And around 1990, 92 or something, he started putting together what he called Spectrum metal laminate, which was layers of titanium forge welded together to get these very, funky looking pieces. And I believe he made 8 or so, or 7 or 8 or 9. I'm not sure what the number was of these, that he actually made these kind of split handle pieces that he forged together. And they're very you guys have seen them. I know, Sean, you checked it out, didn't you?
Yeah. Really enjoyed playing with that piece.
I think there was an article in Tactical Knives, maybe.
There's an article in Blade magazine that I have.
Is it Blade?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Blade.
It's a 1992. What am I thinking of? It was 1992, but they're talking about he started this a couple years before that. So I don't know when exactly these were made, but that came out in 1992. They're kind of crazy. He kind of took this rosewood, put on the outside, and this is, an old ass knife. Somebody knew I was looking for one. They contacted me and I got it cheaper than I probably should have. I mean, it's just one of those I think it's important because it's kind of marks the period. And, guys had to be like, what in the hell am I looking at? They're in the prime of all this type of crazy Damascus, and this guy has this wild color titanium pieces. And supposedly he forged some billets and gave them sold a couple to other makers, but I've never seen, a knife out there other than his that had that. So I don't know where they went, or people just kind of were like, screw this once the white sparks started flying. But I think, it's kind of
So that kind of the start of the Mokutai Damascus type product?
I think so. Supposedly you'll say, I've heard some people say some Japanese makers did it before then, but I've never seen them. So this is my first awareness of this ever being done, which to me is, it's an important part of, where we are. So it's like, I think it's a cool piece, and I one of those I had to have in my weird little collection.
So when people look up Bill Buckner on the web, it's Buchner.
Yeah, and I believe he's still making, actually.
His website's still live for sure.
Okay.
Dude, I think I see your knife. Is yours the, daggery looking one?
Oh, they're all kind of like that. I've got number 7. It's got Spectrum number 7 on it.
Okay.
It's very vibrant. Aesthetically, it's these purples and golds and all this stuff, but it has got, a zero edge. It's wicked sharp. He did these great grinds on it to have the pattern right in the middle on both sides.
Wow.
That's very cool.
Yeah, the centering on the pattern is fantastic on that piece. You couldn't have asked for it to be any better.
Oh, no. He took this billet, he looked at it, and he cut whatever away that wasn't, he made the knife around the pattern. Yeah, you could tell it's well done. Very cool piece.
Yes. Obviously.
Very cool.
All right, so Tom, number 4, what you got, bub?
For this one, I decided to go with something important for history, and for that, I wanted to go with a sword, and I was kind of torn between two different ones. I ended up going with the Gladius or Gladius, however you pronounce that. I think it'd be pretty hard to disagree that this was a pretty important weapon in history. They basically conquered the world with it.
Yep.
And it was quite a bit different than anything up to that point. The one I was thinking about going with also was a Copus, which went to the Kukri. But for me, growing up and even now, the Gladius it's like, I don't know, it's like an iconic sword to me. I love the design. And for me, it's the earlier design, the leaf shaped one that's like pretty wide at the base and then has an hourglass shape like a Gerber Mark II dagger.
A wasp blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The later ones kind of got more pointed and they were still a little bit wasp shaped, but to me, they weren't as the lines weren't as sexy, for some reason. I just love those. And, I can't remember the name of the sword, Albion, the place that was making swords up in, where Jody Sampson had his shop, but they used to have a booth at Blade, and I don't know if they still do or not, but they had a bunch there one time. And I came really close to spending a lot of money on a sword. And this was several years ago when I needed to take money home, but it was very tempting. to me, they're just a beautiful design.
Oh, very much. Did you guys get the Atlantic Cutlery catalogs when you were kids?
Dude, I love
hell yeah.
catalogs. In fact, I still get it. I just bought a sword. I just bought one of these for my son. They have a copper handled one, a gladius, and it's the leaf shaped blade. And he wanted it, and for Christmas I got him that.
That's pretty awesome.
So
I love the
Score. Hell
I
yeah.
love the ethnic, blades, and how they work. How when people work them into like modern designs and stuff like that. I think that's very cool. Seeing the interpretations of it, but the classics are classics for a reason. I mean, I think that's one of the pieces that.
in fact,
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
No, but I may be wrong on this, but isn't this a piece that transitioned from the Bronze into the Iron Age? The style that crossed
Probably
over?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so.
Somebody's going to let us know that I'm wrong, probably, but for some reason I thought that it did. But it was very efficient. That what it was built for.
Yeah, I love them. I mean, they're very efficient. They're not you could cut with them, but they're not a sword for cutting necessarily. They were designed to work with a shield wall, and you stab over and
thrust forward.
a whole new style of fighting. I mean, the Romans were very efficient at waging war.
So now I know why.
And this sword was what did it.
Now I know why you built one of these for the build off.
Yeah, I did.
Those go.
And I lost.
Who did you? Oh man, that was a cool blade.
When was that?
I think I built against maybe Mark Terrell that year. I think.
Tell folks what that was all about, because that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so that was on another forum that it's not around anymore. Basically, some of our knife maker friends split off from the USN and started their own called Custom Knife and Gun forum, and they would have build offs, and it was a lot of fun. We did it several years. I never won, sadly, but I had a lot of fun, so I guess I did win. And it basically, the build offs were pretty awesome because it allowed you to push your creativity and your skill set. And basically you had, was it 24 hours?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Or no, it was maybe 3 days.
Yeah.
Was it 3 days or
we
something?
We had to do timestamps.
But you ended up staying up crazy hours and building stuff that you would never build otherwise. And I think that's maybe a good thing to do. I wish maybe we could do that some more, just because it would give us an excuse to push the envelope.
Yeah, everyone did all these kind of different stuff. Everyone tried new things, which was awesome. Everyone kind of, the spirit of it was, was very, very neat because, you saw people do.
Yeah, it didn't always work. I mean.
Yeah, I made my first and only auto during that.
We did a couple of them on USN in the last few years, the build off thing, and I assume after CK&G sort of dissolved or whatever, but we did do a couple of them on USN, and they were very fun.
They were like a marathon.
Follow along and see what's going on.
Yeah, they were rough, and they were fun. I mean, now it would be much easier because it's so much easier to post pictures off your phone, but. I mean, I can remember shooting pictures with the camera and downloading them onto my computer and editing them and then posting them,
Taking a picture with with the date and time on the computer screen in the background, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Get your Nokia out.
My flip phone. Yeah, so really cool. Sean, what do you got for number 4 or 2 or however you're looking at it?
At number 4, I got the Spanish Navaja.
Oh, yeah. Another
awesome.
Classic traditional Spanish folding knife. I've seen all kinds of interpretations of them, and there ain't too many that don't trip my trigger. I really like the lines on that knife. It has an almost fantastical look to it, some of the ways it's executed. And it's a classic design. And I think it bears interpretation in modern time, too.
Yeah, that's another one of those Atlanta cutlery ones that I was just like, Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of cool different designs like that.
Well, I agree with you, Sean. What's not to like? Their big oversized folders with Bowie blades. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. And generally, they had some really interesting lines to them. The handle generally has a lot of drop at the butt. I really like that on a knife. Generally, it helps hold it in your hand. It gives an aesthetic flow to the line. And I just like it.
And very ornate handles. They were very
generally,
cool.
yes.
Some had, they were just, they're very cool, very pretty.
Well, cool history. I mean, the kind of gypsy type knives.
Yeah, well, it makes you think of, swarthy dudes knife fighting in back alleys in Iberia,
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Awesome piece.
When people go to Google that, it's like spelling Navajo, but with an A on the end instead.
Yeah, Navja.
Didn't they have like a distinct sound or something?
Yeah,
to
they had a
them?
ratchet.
They were like a click clack.
They
Or
clicked
something.
when you opened them. Yeah, they would ratchet.
And then a lot of them had that ring pull lock.
Yeah.
Which I think the standard traditional, what is the quintessential Navajo will have the ring pull lock. I think that's kind of a thing.
This is like memory lane podcast for me. I'm loving it.
Mark, what do you got?
My number 4 is a Gus Cecchini knife, and I picked it because Gus is absolutely crazy innovative in design, and in one of the episodes I had in my hand one of his SLT sort of hidden tab flippers, and he actually made an integral version of that hidden tab flipper, which is, I'm just fascinated by the mechanism that he uses for this SLT hidden tab thing. And then to put it in an integral handle, it's kind of like, it's like make it awesome and then make it awesome squared and then make it awesome cubed. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely insane. So he's like the king of details in stuff. He, has all custom screws and all kinds of crazy inlays, and I don't know. Gus's thing isn't everybody's thing. He's a very unique design aesthetic, but I love his stuff. And from a detail and mechanical perspective, I think he's hard to beat.
Got some pretty awesome stuff, that's for sure. And that SLT is that it's just neat. The way it tucks away and hides is it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely a mechanical genius. I mean, some of that stuff is pretty awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a cool choice. I like that. I got my head tilted to the side thinking of how he's tucked that into an integral.
Exactly. Yeah, if you Google GTC Integral SLT, there's a really good example of it. And when you look at the picture, when I first looked at the picture, I'm like, okay, this is layered construction, whatever. But it's not. It's like you said, it's one where you kind of look at it going, nah, really? That's all one piece? Get out of here. And he's got that crazy flipper tab hidden in there. It's very, very awesome.
He's a tricky one, that's for sure.
He is. And super, super nice guy, and one of the true modern innovators, I think, in this whole industry. And so high five to Gus. GTC Integral SLT. I think that's an amazing piece.
Nice. All
right, Michael. So you're on number 4.
All right, number 4. I am going with the Jungle Honey / Cloud Cutter.
Wow.
You guys may know what that is.
Don Fog?
Yeah. Well, the Fikes did the Jungle Honey, which was kind of this big, cutting, crazy, big chopper thing. But he did a collab with Don Fog that had this just gorgeous hamon. So he took that shape and they added the hamon to it and made this gorgeous knife called the Cloud Cutter. Because the hamon was very cloudy, and it's such a gorgeous, awesome piece. We've talked about before, the knife that kind of sticks in your head that you can't get out.
Yeah.
And that's one that's just stuck in my head.
Man, mine too.
The flow of it, the lines are just gorgeous. That Jungle Honey shape is just amazing. You knew if you had that in your hands, you would just want to chop stuff. I mean, and you feel like it would be effortless.
Yep.
I've always loved the lines of that knife.
Oh, it's so, and I've seen it.
And the Hamon is crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's just, I've seen some interpretations of it, but it's hard to beat those, the original ones. It's gorgeous. I can't.
What steel is that out of? Just curious. Michael, do you know?
I don't know. I'd say either 1086 or W2.
It says 1095. Would that be right?
It could be. Could be.
Because that 1095 is a harder steel to get a Hamon on, isn't it?
No.
I don't know much about it.
That's mainly what I use is 1095.
Really?
Uh-huh. The W2 works great for like the larger blades, but the 1095 is much better for me for the smaller blades. That hollow grind versus flat grind cross section makes a difference with the steels.
So is that a one-of piece, or do they do a series of them, or what?
I'm pretty sure there's just one of the Cloud Cutter. Now, the Jungle Honey was Fikes' design. That was his, blade. So he made, I think, plenty of those, or probably not many of those, but I'm pretty sure there's just one of the actual Cloud Cutter. But I could be wrong. You never know.
Did I find the right one? Is it a quarter wrap thing?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got it like a distinct picture.
Beautiful knife.
Oh, yeah. The lines. It's the lines on that thing. The way they just curve up, and it's gorgeous. Can't say enough about it.
Wow. Good choice.
Thank you.
I think we should be getting a kickback from Google on this whole deal. We're doing a lot of searching and clicking.
Yeah, we're going to put some pictures in maybe a few days after we release it. We'll put some pictures up.
It's just crazy what sticks in your head and what doesn't, what refuses to go away. And there's probably the same picture you guys are looking at right now is one that's been burned in my head for a long time. And I know there's knives that...
Yeah, that Hamon is amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's knives that you guys have that are the same way. They're just kind of burned in. Won't go away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it might be interesting, so I didn't, at the end of this, maybe we'll mention real quick, but there's a couple people that I didn't pick because I figured you guys would, and so far nobody's picked them, and it's kind of ironic.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, pretty cool.
All right, so Tom, this is last one, right?
Yep.
Last one.
So my last one is a knife that to me is important. It's been inspirational for me early on, and I think it's also, iconic to the industry, and it's one that we mentioned in the Skagel episode. It's one of Bill Skagel's knives, and it's to me it's what's iconic about Skagel, and it's one of the Buddy Thompson set. And those are knives with about a 7 or 8 inch blade, classic Skagel, with the handle being high, the stacked washers and leather, and the crown stag. Just a very, you look at it and you understand exactly what it is. There's no confusion about it being a knife or how you would use it, And to me, it's important for the industry because it's that kind of knife that influenced Randall, and it's Randall's knives that influenced Loveless. And so, it was a huge influence in our industry, that type of knife. So that's my last choice.
I heard a fantastic podcast covered Skagel. Just a good, really good podcast.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
No, good choice.
I hear all kinds of things. I don't pay attention.
Especially from those guys.
Good choice.
But that's my last choice. I'm actually trying to find some silver steel right now, and if I actually do end up finding some, I'm going to try to make a couple Skagel knives.
Dibs.
And that'll be one that I try to replicate. So if I'm actually trying to find enough that I can get a piece to you and Sean also, and maybe we can all kind of play around and see what we come up with.
I'm down. I'd be in for that. If you're patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whenever. If I can get enough, I'm trying to get 5 or 6 pieces, and if I do, I'll send each one of you guys a piece. We're having to go to England to source it because nobody makes silver steel in the U.S. anymore.
I almost expected Tom to say that due to the systematic and collusion type activity that took place to keep Tom Crine from winning those custom knives and guns build off, he's going to host his own build off using Silver Steel, in which he may win.
Oh, that was a funny time.
I got my award from winning first place. You want me to send it to you?
Wow.
I got one for like the funnest build or something, but not for winning.
You got a participation award.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I got a Me Too award.
I got whipped many times on that too. It was crazy,
Dude.
you know. We were going against some big names, and then it was like anyone could win those. That was
No,
fun.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't. Anyways.
Mean Birch
right.
makes it on air.
Oh shit!
All right, Sean. So what?
All right. My number 5 is the knives of Peter Beauchamp. I don't think enough people know who he is.
Oh yeah!
Yeah, man. The
Clap for
Wizard, the
that one.
Warlock,
That's a
the
good one.
Witch, all of those knives. I guess I first saw those in Soldier of Fortune magazine when I was real young. And they just really grabbed a hold of me, especially the daggers. His daggers were just superb. His take on the coffin handle, your handle was the guard and the handle material all in one. Black Calguard D2 blade. Just a fantastic package. Very, very well-made knife. Very purpose-driven knife. Very well-designed knife.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love those.
What would be like your iconic pick of his knives?
And probably the full-size Witch, the big double-edged dagger. Either that or
Nice.
the Warlock, it has that modified clip point, really stabby, slashy blade. I mean, but both of those are classics. Both of those are great-looking knives.
Yeah, very much. That's an excellent choice.
I think they're still making knives in South Africa or somewhere, right?
He was always in South Africa. He's not with us anymore, but I think maybe his
son
still
is, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Very cool. So some of them look like they're very dark, and other ones have like brass guard and stuff. Like maybe there's some dressier
brass guard,
ones.
wood handle.
Nice.
I always liked the blacked out blades with the micarta that was like filed with a checker file.
Checker file in between the rivets or the tubes. The flared tubing is generally what he used.
What was the one that looked like a kind of a spaceship going forward? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, you're thinking of the one I was thinking was the Warlock. Shoot.
The Warlock is the big dagger.
It's the big dagger, yeah.
The smaller one is the Witch.
And then there was the clip point fighter, and that's the one I was talking about as being a solid pick. Wow, damn it! What was that one called? Was it the Alley Cat?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Very good choice. I mean, that's a solid choice right there.
Yep, the Alley Cat. That's the one.
Yeah, it is the Alley Cat.
Yeah, that's a great looking knife. Damn.
Yeah, his knives all were very, very. You could pick them out, Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, very.
He had a
iconic
strong aesthetic
designs.
sense of his own, definitely.
Beautiful knives.
Yeah, and very functional knives. I mean, I believe most of them were designed with input from dudes who had fought in Rhodesia, and there's a little bit of history behind them.
Yeah, so his son, it looks like Robert, has a website now, and one of my friends, Jake Bush, is super into these knives, and we were actually going to try to order a couple a while back, and we ended up not doing it, but I think he'll still make them. Yeah, good choice.
And I've never seen any of his folders. I know that he did folding versions of the Witch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an interesting little folder. I've never handled one, though.
Huh. So he's passed, but does the brand make it up here to Blade Show and stuff? I know a lot of South African makers do.
If they do, I've never seen them there, and I've looked.
I don't think they do. Yeah, the folder's called the Shaman or whatever.
That's it. It was on the cover of Tactical Knives in 94, 95. The first issue of Tactical Knives I ever picked up, actually.
Cool stuff. Mark, what do you got for us?
So my last one is a kitchen knife, believe it or not. And I don't remember. I think I talked about this before in one of the episodes. There's a guy that's very frequently at the knife shows, and his name, I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm going to attempt to say it anyways. Shusui Takeda. He's a Japanese guy, bald head, always has a white towel around his neck, and he's always sharpening knives like crazy at the shows. Yep. And I had the good fortune to get one of his Gyuto knives, 240 millimeter AS clad. So Aogami's super steel core, hammered stainless clad around the outside so that it's not so tough to take care of. So it's a Sanmai blade, octagonal handle, the whole deal. And absolutely fantastic kitchen knife. That was one of the questions that folks asked in the group, was about what kind of knives do you use. And that thing is just a pleasure. Super thin, very easy to keep sharp. And it is straight laser beam sharp. I mean, it's crazy, crazy sharp. So it's really a pleasure to use in the kitchen. So, he's around. I think last time I talked to him, he said he wasn't going to do as many shows. I don't know if he wasn't selling as much as he'd hoped at shows or what, but, I'd very much like to have one of his cleavers. And, so hopefully he'll be at Blade Show. I assume he will. And, I'm going to see if I can get a cleaver from him at Blade.
Yeah. He's always behind us at New York, but I think he said this year he's not coming back.
He's not coming back to New York for sure, but I think he was saying he was cutting back on a bunch of shows. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think he said he was, too busy almost. Like he didn't need to go to shows or whatever.
Right.
But super cool knives.
Yeah. They're really nice. If you ever get a chance to use one, they're fantastic.
Yeah. Surprising.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something different and useful. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess they're all useful, but this one's like making dinner kind of useful. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, you're closing this thing out. What's your number 5?
I've got one that I'm really surprised no one else picked. The Gerber Mark II.
I picked it, but omitted it because I figured somebody else would.
Oh, snap.
Right?
This thing is, talk about, we've used Iconic probably more times than we should have, but it is.
Yeah.
It's the dagger that you recognize immediately. This was made around 1966. There was a guy named Bud Holzman. He was a military man, and he kind of designed this a little bit around the Sykes Fairbanks dagger, which is recognized was a very thin type of dagger. So he went back and forth with Gerber on designing this thing. And it got produced, and it actually had, so it took this long skinny dagger and it added the Gladius type of wasp-like bulge to it. So you've got sort of a very, well, you guys, most people recognize the look of it. Kind of goes out and kind of bulges out. And this was very much a purpose-driven fighting knife. Some of them had a cant to them, a 5-degree cant, so that you could wear it as a boot knife so it wouldn't stick out too far. And there's been 4 or 5, probably more than that, iterations of this knife, throughout the years.
Oh, yeah.
It was, people took it to Vietnam. It's a crazy, deadly knife, that had one purpose, and it's just easily recognizable. And just a fantastic design. It's got beautiful lines. It's one of those, you don't know if it's because what its purpose was that makes it a little scary, or the fact that it's the lines that are, so nice looking that draw you to it. You don't know which is which on that one.
But there's a certain romanticism to the look of that blade to me. It reminds me of medieval daggers. There is something to that knife.
It does bring that Gladius to it. And like we mentioned before, sort of that modern take, modern, being 1966, but version of a ethnic type of old school knife. Roman being very old school, but it's awesome. It's a great looking knife. Then of course after, I was like, oh, I don't have one of those. Now I'm probably going to have to get one of those. Cause I never had one, I'm going to have to at some point.
So quick question. And I think I remember this. It seems like, during the 70s, maybe they started adding the serrations because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I remember that they were too much of a fighting knife and they weren't like politically correct. And so they added the serrations and called it a survival knife after that. And then they could sell it on the bases.
I don't know. I know it came real close to being, or pretty close to being an actual issued knife, but it didn't quite make it. They passed it around and they got taken to different bases to get tested and, checked out by, these people and almost got, I think, picked up, but it didn't. Now it sounds perfectly feasible that it could have been called a survival knife. It could also have been because of what was being sold at the time. It could have been because of, not being.
Yeah, I think it was too combatty, Too
combatty.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but I think they were going to pull it because it was like too vicious or whatever. And they put the serrations on it and called it a survival knife, and they allowed it to stay on the base PXs or whatever.
Huh. That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that. Now you can look up like all the different iterations of it. Some had cants, some didn't, some had a cannon blade, some didn't. Some had the cat's tongue, what they called the real grippy handle that they use on it. Some didn't. It's just.
Yeah, Cutlery Shop had several exclusive Mark II designs.
Nice. And it had a pretty long run, for a knife.
They're still making them.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I had to add it. I kind of thought someone else would do it, but I had to do it.
So that, I think that was a pretty awesome list. Is there any, that any of you guys left off just thinking that it was too obvious?
Actually, I had one backup just in case some reason we overlapped and something made it through the cracks. I had my backup as the SOG Bowie.
Oh, very nice. Another Vietnam era knife.
Thought about that, and I almost went...
iconic design.
Almost went blackjack.
Ooh.
I thought the blackjack would be cool to talk about. The Almar Sear, I thought somebody would snag that one for sure.
You're using up future episodes, Birch.
Oh yeah, there's so many knives out there.
Well, yeah, there's so many. One that I thought for sure you would pick, Michael, would be like the Michael Walker zipper blade. Because it's a liner lock. It's got the zipper blade it's pretty cool.
It's very cool, but I kind of thought
that knife deserves its own episode.
Yeah, I kind of thought that would be a little obvious, I guess.
Yeah, so did I. That's why I didn't pick it. But
yeah, there's plenty of knives that
we
deserve
owe a lot to that knife
to be known, and there's a lot of knives that probably already are known. And that's what kind of made this hard was we didn't. Do you pick something that people already know about, or But it's also we don't know what people know or don't know. But that's what kind of made it fun.
Super fun. Yeah, I loved it.
We've got to do it again, and it could be, we can nail it down a little bit more next time, or just go, go broad and see what comes out, because we had some interesting picks. We went from United.
Yeah, I like the openness that
went from obscure to United Cutlery to kitchen cutlery. So this was fun.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was a fun exercise just thinking about it. And then once I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I got to talk about this stuff. So I actually researched some of this a little bit, and it was very, very fun. I don't know, assignment. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun in the future. We could do this again. And I think it would actually be more fun. This one was awesome, but instead of doing it again, narrow it down like 5 important blades to history or to the industry or, whatever.
Yeah.
But
no, this was
super fun.
I know I went on eBay and checked out Mark II blades for sure. Right? Yep.
So, Mark, do we have time for a couple questions, or we're going to save that for later?
I don't know. We could probably do a couple.
You wanna field those?
Sure. So I kind of touched on it earlier when I talked about the Takeda kitchen knife thing, but one of the questions was, do you enjoy cooking? What do you guys like to cook? And what knives do you use? Tom, you want to talk about that from your perspective?
Yeah. I love to cook. I'm not great at it. I don't have enough time, it seems like, but, I find, cooking very interesting. I like cooking cookbooks. I read a lot of different stuff. I wish I had more time, but, it's just not possible. But when I do cook, I have a 6-inch French chef knife that I made. It's 01 steel. I keep it separate from the other knives because the other knives don't really get cared for that well, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
So I keep that separate, and as far as kitchen knives right now, I'm having a lot of fun. We're actually building a set this year. We're doing a lot of design work. I worked on a small chef knife, designed today. We're trying to get it nailed down, but we're basically doing a set in installments. So far we've done the kitchen utility, which is a very small knife. And we've got the kitchen paring knife, which is in heat treat. We've got 2 different versions in heat treat, and we're basically going to build a set. And so, if you don't have to buy the whole set at once because a full set of custom knives is pretty expensive.
Right.
But yeah, having a lot of fun with it. A good knife really makes, some of the cooking a lot more fun, and much easier. Like, you have a chef knife that actually is thin and cuts well.
Right.
A lot of fun, but yeah.
What about you, Sean? I've never experienced the Aberdeen barbecue, but I hear tell you're the man.
I like to cook. I cook 99.9% of the meals that get eaten by my family, and I enjoy it.
Good on you, man.
I can cook everything from biscuits and gravy to a provincial-style beef stew in the French tradition. So
nice.
And I use cheap shit knives that you would be ashamed to see in my home.
Well, the cobbler's shoes type.
Oh,
thing.
yeah. The cobbler's children go barefoot consistently.
Yeah.
Some years ago, Rob Bapty told me to go buy some Victorinox Fibrox.
Yeah, the Victorinox Forstner, they're the best.
They really are. Then they are dirt cheap. And man, they take a crazy edge. They're easy to care for. At our house, like you talked about, Tom, they get stuck in the dishwasher. I mean, they get abused. And those things are super easy to touch up. Half the time I just drop them and boom, they are very, very nice to use.
I don't know about all of the knives, but I know the little paring knives are AEBL.
Is that right?
You're getting the same steel as in my custom knives. I mean, for my kitchen knives, I think that's what I use is AEBL. It's a great steel. And, yeah, you can buy a paring knife for like $5 and it's pretty amazing.
A paring knife's my most used knife in the kitchen, period. I use it for 80% of the stuff I do.
Yeah. The French chef, the Victorinox Forstner French chef, $30 knife won, the best chef knife for Cook's Illustrated magazine a few years ago, and it was competing against the Wusthof and all the high-end Global, all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, they take a beating, but they work great and they're easy to get back in shape. So that's what I like about them. They're awesome.
Great knives.
What about you, Birch? Do you enjoy cooking? What do you like to cook?
Well, when I'm mixing up my kids some mac and cheese, I like to use only the best. No, I don't mind cooking. It's more of, I guess I do more barbecuing than I do cooking. But it depends. Mine's really time. I don't have a lot of time. So with kids, young kids, it's, what can we do quick that they'll eat and all that kind of fun stuff. And like Sean, I have a horrible, crappy ass kitchen set. And I keep telling myself I'm going to make some or, buy some cool ones or something, but I haven't. Like today I made chili and I used a Tom Crine Jack Turner special, cut my stuff up.
Yeah, that is some shitty stuff, man.
But that's like stuck in. Well, yeah, that didn't turn out right.
That was the worst plug I've ever heard.
The worst knives ever. In fact, today,
yeah, I don't even know what brand, but I'm missing like 2 from my little kitchen set. I don't know where they went, but I've got 2 gone. The Tom Crine's about the only one I use for actually cutting things that I need to cut.
Note to self, if we ever do take on advertising, Birch is not allowed to read the ad.
Yeah. Try out this awesome bed. I can't sleep at all on it.
They sent me one of my back hurts every single day.
But
yeah, lovely.
That's awesome.
All right, so we'll do one more. In this one, we'll do it from the knife maker type questions. And this is a generic one. Our friend Chris Flanagan asked, what is the best advice you'd give a new maker or a hobby maker trying to establish himself? So somebody just getting started as a knife maker, what kind of advice would you give them?
Get out while you can.
The Mayo advice, go beg for your job back.
Yeah.
Well, Birch, why don't you take a shot at that one first?
I guess make sure you have a solid job starting out and work your ass off. There's many aspects of how to approach it. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to, you want this to be your job? You want to just enjoy making knives? I say just work hard, and make what you want to make and hope that people like it. And if they don't, then, you may have to keep it as a hobby. But if they do, then you get to make what you love and be able to sell them. So it's kind of tough sometimes.
But be ready to work.
Yeah, be ready to put in a lot of work, a lot of hours. But at the same time, if it's something you want to do, that desire is there, it's not going to really feel like work when you're starting out. It's hours. It's not, it's not like hours at your real job.
Right.
It's fun work.
Sean, you have anything you want to add on that as far as advice for a new maker?
No, Michael covered it. You just gotta, if you want to get good, you gotta work. You gotta be in the shop and you're going to have to sacrifice. I mean, there was 12 years I worked 2 jobs, I would get up in the morning, work in the knife shop for 4 to 5 hours, and then cook dinner, get ready, and go to my other job and stay there for 12 hours. You just better be willing to sacrifice. And if you ain't willing to sacrifice, maybe you don't want it that fucking bad.
Yep, well said. Tom, you have any advice you want to throw in there for a new maker?
Yeah, I mean, I think what they said is if you caught what they said, don't quit your day job. It's important. I think you really need to be passionate about it. You need to, when I started out, I read everything I could find. I mean, if you look at my library now, I have just about every book that's been published on knife making I have. And one of the things that I learned early on was, read everything you can find and take away what works for you. Not everything's going to work for you, but you can take something away from any book. I mean, there's something you can take away, even if it's don't do it this way. They said work hard. Don't be afraid to pay your dues. I see so many new makers, they jump right into making folders. And to me, that's a big mistake because it's a huge recipe for failure, possible failure,
a huge recipe for frustration.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if that's really applicable anymore. I think, there's so much information about folders these days. It's not like when we did it, it was like kind of a mystery, that you had to reach a step or a goal anymore. There's so much information that you can hop right into folders.
Yeah, I do agree that there's a lot of information out there, but I still disagree. If you're, for me, the first knife I ever built, it was a very simple knife because I wanted to be able to get it finished and have that, that first one is the big hump. And I feel like a lot of people jump in, neck deep, and it makes it very tough for them because if you're just making a fixed blade, all you got to worry about is your fit and finish and your grinds and stuff like that. And you can get it done and you can make another one. But if you're doing something complex, you do one every long period and you don't get the repetition to build those grinding skills or build those handle shaping skills,
general muscle memory.
let's face it, grinding knives, you don't learn on the first one you do. You don't learn on the 10th one you do. You don't learn on the 100th one you do. It's when you get into hundreds, you start really being able to refine your technique and stuff.
At the same time,
I think
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Repetition and hard work there's no doubt you have to do it. But I think anymore, you can have pieces waterjet and you can get the grinding work done. You can get all that stuff. You can get that practice in with.
You can have it all outsourced, but I don't know that you're a knife maker.
I'm not saying get the grinding done for you. I'm saying you can get your practice on the folder blades just as much as you can on the fixed blades, is what I'm saying. With today's,
But you won't make as many. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think it's different now than it was when we were coming up, I guess, but I get what you're saying. The repetition and the grinding and the fixed blades make it easier on yourself. But if your passion, and like we said, all said passion is kind of important there. If your passion's folding blades, it's like, why would you start off with the fixed blades, I guess.
Yeah. To get skills. I mean,
I guess, yeah.
But yeah.
I've actually had guys ask me that question about, jumping into folders, and I always counsel against it because I'm of the opinion if you can't grind your bevels, it don't matter how well that handle comes together, how it walks and talks and snaps open. If it don't have a good bevel on it and it don't have a blade that cuts, you've got a chunk of shit.
Oh, yeah. But that goes either way with the fixed blade or the folder.
Yeah, but a fixed blade's going to have you grinding more.
Maybe so.
And it's less heartbreak if you fuck it up because you don't have a beak going into mechanics and parts, labor.
And Birch, I hear what you're saying. There's guys that do it, and I know it. They can do it. I know people can do it. I'm just saying, I guess go into it eyes wide open. I think fixed blades are going to be much easier to learn some skills on.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to know your limits. You got to know what you can do, but work at what your passion is and work towards it. I guess is a good way of doing
100%. The last bit of advice that I would give is buy good tools. Buy better tools than you can afford.
Yeah.
Cry once, don't cry every time you use it. And that starts with some of the simpler tools like a vise. A vise is oddly enough, it's something a lot of people go cheap on, and a good vise will last you your lifetime, really. And they don't have to be that expensive. You can get a Wilton vise, pretty inexpensive, but same thing with your grinder and all your hand tools, all that stuff. Buy the best you can buy and upgrade when you can.
Or at least buy, things that you're going to still use. It's like, we started out that Grizzly grinder was $250 or $275 or whatever it was. Yeah, we moved on to the KMG later, or I did, or whatever, grinder you end up going with. But man, I still use that Grizzly for a long ass time, and it's still running out there somewhere. So there's a certain degree of it there.
And say what you want about those Grizzly grinders, but to get them to stop, you just about got to take them out and shoot them.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. But I've also seen, we've all seen guys get into it hard and heavy, spend a whole bunch of money, and then pop, I can't make knives or whatever. If you can get to a maker's shop to see what's out there, to see what works, and kind of see see if you can do it to begin with. That's the tough part is.
Well, 100%. That was going to be my last thing, Michael, was try to find somebody in your area. If you can find an experienced knife maker, and you can approach them and see if they can spend a little time with you. And maybe we'll do an episode where we talk about, shop
etiquette. Yeah, that's
if you go see someone, what kind of food to take and what.
Well, that's very important because it is when you're asking a knife maker to come to their shop, you're asking them to come. You're welcoming someone into your home usually.
Yep.
So you have to really should approach it the right way. You don't expect it because they're sort of a public figure.
It's time that you're taking away.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, but I think that'd be a good episode sometime.
Yep, I agree.
Great question. Thanks.
All right. So thanks to Adrian for the cooking question and to Chris for the the new maker advice question. I think that's about all we got time for tonight. From that perspective, we have a whole ton of other questions. So we really appreciate everybody taking time both on Instagram and in the Facebook group to feed us these big giant list of questions. We've got them all collected. Please keep adding to the list as time goes on. And when we can, we'll try to squeeze some in and, talk back to you a little bit. So hopefully that'll be something folks enjoy.
And thanks for everybody who's put up questions so far. There are some really fantastic questions being put out.
My problem was I want to answer them. I find myself starting to answer the question like, oh, wait a minute, we got to do it on the podcast.
I'm the same way.
I did too, man. I actually started typing.
All right. So what's going on in the shop? Sean, what do you got going on in the shop down there?
I am working on a size down version of the Hex. It's 85% to size of the original, and it'll be the smallest knife I've made at this point if I can finish it. So fingers crossed on that.
I saw that. That's looking pretty cool.
Very cool.
I like that blade.
Man, it's a cool itty bitty little piece, and I've actually got another pattern for one that's scaled down to 75%. But it's so small that I'm like, yeah, we'll get this one done if we can get it done, and then see how that itty bitty guy will do.
Right. Question for you. Do you know it's 85% smaller because you took your original copy, put it in the copier, and did 85% smaller?
Well, shit, yeah. How else am I going to do it?
That is my kind of math right there.
What do we do before copying machines, man?
Take my drawing and scale it down. Awesome.
Birch, what do you got going on? I know you got a whole bunch of knives on the bench down there.
I'm just chugging away, trying to shake off the winter blues and just get my ass busy. Best way to do it is try to make some shit.
So I don't know if people saw this. I know some folks did. Some people that are on the podcast and in the group are also Michael's Facebook group, but he's very modest about it. But he just did a thing with a lottery and raised a bunch of money for a charity called Ozarks Food Harvest.
Yeah.
So a charity to provide meals to people in need who might not otherwise have means for food. And part of that even is a program where they send kids home from school on Friday with food for the weekend. And what was the total number, Michael? Do you remember?
$5,200, which came to
$5,200.
Fantastic.
Good on you, man.
It's not me. It's that's the thing about the charity stuff. It's not me. It's the customers. They're the ones that put the money and paid for it. So it's not me. It's them, and I want to thank them greatly for doing that.
100%. But at the same time, you get some of that too, man, because you facilitated them. So good on you and good on them.
No, I appreciate what they did. It's awesome for a good program, good local program.
Nah, man, like as a kid, I benefited from programs like that where we lived. You don't know the good something like that can do.
That's awesome.
And feeding kids, how can you not feel good about that part, right? I mean, that's, like you said, everybody wins.
Yeah.
The folks at the charity got a bunch of money that they didn't have before. I think the collectors get to feel good about making a good contribution to something cool. There was opportunity for a knife in the process as well. So, and, high five to Michael for making it happen. So
I just wonder,
something worth, I think worth talking about.
I wonder if someone at the office is just like, what in the hell?
Ching,
right.
Ching, ching.
Exactly. All right, Tom, what about you? What do you got going on?
We're just kind of got our heads down working. We're trying to get a lot of knives out, trying to recoup from the Haas getting here and some of those expenses, and trying to move forward with some, to fund the rest of the expenses. So we've got, I think we've already shipped 20 plus knives this week, and we'll probably ship another 10 tomorrow. So
awesome.
Just keeping our heads down and working.
Still not a name yet?
So I was going to name her Becky, and my son said that I couldn't do that because that's his drone's name, which I didn't know. And
why would you?
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm thinking.
So yours is a girl, huh?
Yeah. I'm thinking about going with Rosie, Rosie the Riveter, because, hardworking gal.
There you go.
I actually may do some artwork on it. I don't know. I've got a pretty good artist that works for me.
you're going to kind of have to put some awesome artwork on the side if you name her Rosie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like some straight up.
Yeah. So I've already talked to
or
Mark.
make parts with it too. That's important too.
Yeah, we're still working on that.
Eventually, Birch. Don't get ahead of the program here.
But yeah, dress it up first, art first, and then make some parts.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all that's going on here.
Very cool.
All right. Next big show coming up is the...
Whoa. What do you got going on, Mark?
What have I got going on? That's a good question. I just finished up selling the last of this batch of beads that John Brown did some finish work on for me. So that was really cool. Scoopy Loops collaboration beads. Those were wildly popular. So that's been fun. I'm going to try to have some
nice.
I'm going to have to try to have some ready for this weekend too. So, hopefully get a few out. I think I'll probably take a few down to Fort Lauderdale. So I got to get some ready for that too. And then I got a collaboration thing that I talked to a guy about this week. So I got a collaboration project, a couple of them going. So hopefully I can get my one announced here in a little bit. And I think both of those will be really cool. Folks really like them. So secret stuff.
Yeah, you're being very secretive there.
Yeah, you know. And then hopefully by the time this podcast is out, I had an artist friend named Lydia Roberts who did a fantastic piece of art for the Ray Gun Division brand, and we're going to do some t-shirts and stickers and all kinds of stuff. So I teased that image a little bit and showed it to a couple folks today, so I'll probably try to get it posted here in the next few days so people can see what it looks like. But she did an absolutely amazing job on that project. So
yeah, absolutely.
Lydia is a great artist.
That turned out really cool.
Good person.
Yeah, very, very cool gal. I met her in person at New York show last year, thanks to Bob Tergiola. She's a friend of Bob and Susie's, and that's how I got introduced to her. So yeah, she did a fantastic job. So that'll be really fun getting that stuff out there. So neat thing for the brand.
I am XL, just letting you know. You know my address.
It's cool enough. People are asking for like poster kind of prints of it. So I'll get it published so people can see what it looks like. So
heck yeah.
Okay. So next show is actually next weekend. So Fort Lauderdale show, the new version of the East Coast Custom Knife Show, March 16th and 17th. So Amy and I are actually leaving on Wednesday. We're going to go down a couple days early. Hopefully it'll be nice and sunny and warm down there. Kind of getting sick of winter up here in Michigan. So, East Coast show. So if you're there, I'll be around. Say hello. We'll be wandering around the show there for a little while. So that's always a good time.
Ray gun beads around his neck like a big old necklace.
Right. Like a very prickly version of a Hawaiian lei.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and like I've talked before, I updated that thread on the USN. So if you're on the USN and you're trying to see when shows are, go check the current shows thread in the knife show section on USN. You'll see the whole big list there of all the major shows. And if you have one you want to add, post in there, and either Tom Mayo or I'll add it to the list and we'll get it all going.
Nice.
And then our next episode. So this is episode 7, and our next episode, episode 8, we're going to have a special guest to come and have a little bit of an interview with us, and it might be fun to pick a few questions from the Q&A list and walk through them with him while he's on the show. And he's someone that we hope will be a friend of the show. So, Sean, would you like to introduce who this is going to join us next time?
We will be talking to the one and only Mr. Nick Rossi.
Mr. Nick Rossi.
You said friend like it's a possibility he could become a foe.
Well, man, I mean, he may get to know
We
us
hope he's
and
a
not care
friend.
for us at all.
Anything is possible.
Strangers happen.
He could regret this choice before it's all said and done. No, that's the way Sean said it during his episode, is that we hope Nick Rossi will become a friend of the show,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds like an offer you can't refuse. So I'm not surprised he's coming. But Nick is going to join us for episode 8. So that'll be super cool, I think. It'll be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, really looking forward.
Yeah, I like Nick.
Very, very talented guy. Very down to earth, good guy.
Yeah, awesome guy, doing some neat things. we'll talk more when the episode happens, but it'll be fun, and he's really looking forward to it. And so, like you said, we'll make him regret that decision, but it'll be entertaining if nothing else. So we'll hope that folks will look forward to that with us. So we're going to record that in 2 weeks from the recording of this show. So we're doing our very best to stay on an every 2 week sort of a schedule and on the release dates or whatever. So, stay tuned. We appreciate everybody listening to the show and giving us great feedback. We did the contest with the Knives and Knife Makers book. And so people knocked out a zillion iTunes reviews for us. So thank you to everyone for doing that. We very much appreciate it.
We really do. And please keep them coming because we're working on getting another book to give away.
A teaser.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's on the way.
Okay. So thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed the 5 knives thing. This is a topic, as mentioned earlier, we'll probably swing back around and do again in a later episode, but we got lots of fun things planned. We have 5 more episodes sort of lined up on what we think we want to do. So stay tuned.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net or in his Facebook group, Crine Knives. Tom also has an Instagram at Crine Knives. Michael Birch has a webpage at birchtreeblades.com, a Facebook group at Birchtree Blade Works, and an Instagram account at birchtreeblades. For myself and the Raygun Division Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. And I do have a Facebook group, Raygun Division, and the Instagram is under my name, at msteiner. For the show itself, we did start a Facebook page called Mark of the Maker. Please check it out. And we have an Instagram feed as well, at Mark of the Maker, where we'll post some behind-the-scenes things from the show and some other stuff that you might find interesting. And last but not least, the ultra-cool background music that we've used for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.